Listen, the Rose Bowl is going to have some big-time teams in Michigan and also Alabama. So when you have those two blue bloods, you have to bring in Desmond Howard and Greg McElroy. Guys, how you doing?
What's up, RC?
It's early and it's cold.
hey, Des, culturally, early and cold doesn't really work well for us.
Not at all. Not for this guy. Not for this black guy.
Hey, Des, when you look at this matchup between Alabama and Michigan, what are some of the keys to you?
Well, I think the first key for Michigan's defense is to try to contain Jalen McElroy. Now, Jalen is a guy who started the season kind of rough, got benched, but then I think he got on the same page with his offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees. And, man, this guy, he's just been playing extremely well. He's been very decisive with the ball, making really good decisions, quick decisions, going through his progressions, and just playing with a lot of confidence right now, especially to play the way he played against Auburn. Man, that game was a 4th and 31. They converted that to win that game. Then, on top of that, to go into the SEC championship game and beat the two-time defending national champ, the Georgia Bulldogs, the way they did. He's playing with a lot of confidence right now, but he's the most dynamic dual-threat quarterback that I've seen all season long and that the Michigan Wolverines defense will have faced all season, too.
Greg, what do you think about what Des is saying in Michigan stopping Jalen McElroy, and how important is that for the Michigan Wolverines to try to win this game?
It's massive. I think that's the biggest key in the game more than anything else. Usually, you think Bama, you think Michigan, you think line of scrimmage, right? Like great D-line, great O-line, but really it's about the dynamicness of Jalen McElroy. And if he can get outside the pocket and create, it's game, set, and match for Michigan. But I think Michigan's really well coached, so I think they'll do a good enough job in being aggressive in their pass rush, but not overly aggressive to where they run past the passer, and he can kind of open up lanes between the guards and the tackles. I think it's really huge, though, that they play a vision-style defense, which should actually be quite helpful because their eyes are going to be on Jalen McElroy as opposed to on individual wide receivers. They're a zone-based team that really runs a lot of zone-based principles with some man principles, too, on the perimeter, but their style of defense should be able to potentially create some turnovers and possibly kind of contain him at the second and third levels. But I think that's the biggest key for them.
Greg, and looking at this matchup, the Michigan Wolverines, they come in the favorite, right? They're the #1 team in the college football playoff. When you think about Jim Harbaugh and what this means for him, is it championship or bust for Michigan's head coach?
I would normally not take the bait on this one, RC. I really wouldn't. But given the scrutiny that this Michigan team has kind of had to endure all year, and the fact that they've now had not one, not two, but this is their third time in the college football playoff, if they can't get this one with a really veteran team, a team that's played really well all season long, didn't play their best football in November, but if they can't get this one, it's kind of one of those scenarios where if not now, then when? Because they are probably the most complete team remaining, but they don't have the highest ceiling amongst the teams remaining, which is scary. I think going into a matchup like this, Bama's ceiling is higher than Michigan's, Texas's is higher than Michigan's. So I think that that's a little bit troublesome, but they have the highest floor. So they need to play really well today. And if they don't get it, I think the narrative will continue on for Jim Harbaugh and really the Big Ten in general. Is can they get it done against the SEC on the biggest possible stage? Because they haven't done it since 2014 Ohio State.
Yeah, Des, you've been locked in with this Michigan saga the entire season. And there's been so many highs and lows, ups and downs. When it comes to this college football playoff, though, how paramount is it that Michigan comes away with the national championship?
Well, I tell you what, RC, when you look at the season that the 2023 Wolverines have had to go through, don't forget they started the season off with Jim Harbaugh on the sideline for the first 3 games, and that was just because someone's feelings was hurt in the NCAA. It wasn't like he did anything that drastic. And then they end the season, the toughest part of their season, with their own commissioner putting Jim Harbaugh taking him off the sideline while they were still in the air. They're on their way to Happy Valley, RC, and then the commissioner says, okay, we're going to suspend Harbaugh for the last 3 games. They land and find out we're not going to have our head coach, not only for the Penn State game, but for the toughest part of their schedule, on the road against Penn State, on the road against Maryland, and then, of course, at home against the Ohio State Buckeyes. So for everything that they had to go through, this team is resilient. They're tough-minded. And to come out of all of that as the #1 seed in this college football playoff, to me, is a huge win.
Yeah, that is a huge win. I'm going to talk to you, though, Greg, about what's going on in my hometown of New Orleans. I hope you're eating good, too, brother. When you look at this matchup between Texas and Washington, and obviously you'll be on the game call, what do you think are some of the most important things we should be paying attention to and how that plays into who wins?
RC, I ate good until last night at midnight. Now it's time to flip the switch. New year, new me, right? We got to clean things up this year, at least for the next 3 or 4 weeks. But I think it's going to be an amazing game. I mean, it's an awesome matchup. These two teams really match up well against each other. Washington has the high-powered weapons that you need to take advantage of a Texas defense that has at times struggled against groups that have an identity similar to this. Texas's worst defensive performances this year have come against TCU, Houston, and against Oklahoma, all of which have really good receivers and all of which want to push the ball vertically in the passing game. And then Texas feels, I believe, and this is my just personal opinion, I think they think they're the toughest team in the country, the most physical team in the country. So I think they are probably thinking we can definitely kind of control the flow of the game, especially from the inside out with our defensive line, which is the best in college football. So I think it's going to be an amazing matchup and one that I'm really, really excited to be a part of.
Well, I know people think Christmas is the most wonderful day of the year, but for college football fans, this is. And we will see you both today. Des, we'll see you at 10 a.m. Eastern, but it'll still be cold and early out there for you.